Good morning, student. Today we are going to start new chapter, that is steering system, front wheel and steering system. Okay, in this lecture this will be the content of our chapter number 4, front axle, function of the front axle, as well as which section should be preferred for the front axle. Either it should be manufactured of the I section or circular section, as well as the front axle can be classified based on its connections with the stub axle and the axle beam, that we are going to learn. After that we are going to see what is the function of steering, what is steering system layout, what are the automotive steering mechanism, that is Ackerman and Davis. I think you have learned this. Some part has covered in theory of machine. Okay, and after that different types of steering gearboxes we are going to see, and conditions of true rolling, steering geometry, which is very important, as I already told you in the chapter tire and wheel, where the steering geometry is important. It affects on the life of the tire, or also the safety purpose or the true functioning. That's why we are going to learn what is camber angle, what is caster angle, what is kingpin inclination, toe in, toe out, and what's happen when these angles are not proper. Okay, and how to measure these angles, why this angle is in that range only, that we are going to learn in steering geometry. After that some part is wheel alignment, slip angle, understeer, oversteer, and one important is power steering and its types. Okay, these are the overall content of this chapter. First you should understand, uh, before going to start this chapter, we have learned the transmission system, and in transmission system part I have covered the what is propeller shaft, differential, universal joint, and last part we have covered rear axle. Okay, before going to start steering system, you should know what is front axle. Okay, or just look at this figure, you will understand this will be the front axle, which is front side of the vehicle and which supports the two wheels. Okay, the wheel is mounted on both sides of that axle, and the important part of the front axle is this axle over which the front wheels are mounted are called front axle. And in automobiles the front wheels are fixed to the chassis in two ways. First, either by the independent suspension system. Okay, and we are going to learn suspension system in detail, and also you can make this axle connection with the chassis by using axle beam with leaf spring. Okay, axle beam with leaf spring. Okay, here the diagram is shown for understanding. Okay, this is the front beam axle, it is called as beam axle, and here the leaf spring is shown. We are looking from front side, that's why only this part front view is we are observing here of leaf spring. And this is the stub axle. Okay, where the whole wheel assembly is connected through stub axle to beam axle. Okay, and this is the chassis. Chassis is a main part on which the engine or other parts are mounted, and here it is connected with the help of independent suspension system or axle beam with leaf spring. Two types of connections are possible. These suspension spring, independent suspension spring or leaf spring, is used to fix the chassis to the beam, front beam. Okay, so first now we will understand what is the function of front axle. What is the expectations of the front axle? What are the consideration of the front axle while designing? Okay, so it is important part. First important part, the front weight of the vehicle is taken by the front axle. Okay, just see, it carries the weight of the front of the vehicle, as well as it carries horizontal and vertical loads on bumpy roads. Means if the road is irregular shape, or there is a speed breaker, or the road is not properly horizontal surface or good surface, then it is called as a bumpy road, and on that bumpy road there are horizontal and vertical loads on this front axle. In case when the front axle is provided with the brakes, or the brakes are provided with the front wheels, then braking torque reaction is coming on this front axle, which causes twisting of the axle between the stub axle and spring seat. Okay, in main figure we have seen where is the position of stub axle and where is the position of spring seat, and in that between the axle get twisting, okay, due to this braking torque reaction. Once again we will see the position of where the twisting will happen. This is the position of stub axle, here is the position of the spring, and in between this, here the axle will get twist if there is a brake is mounted on this axle, okay, or the wheel. Okay, and we are going to learn braking system in detail. Just we know that the main torque or the twisting movement will happen in this portion or this portion symmetrically. Okay, and that's why we have to take according to which you have to choose the section of the axles. Okay, we are going to see that point afterwards, but just look here. Apart, not only the braking torque or forces, as well as the front axle should provide cushioning through its spring for a comfortable ride, as well as if the vehicle is four-wheel drive, at that time this front axle should transmit the power to the road wheels. Okay, all these are the function or requirement of the front axle. Now, as we told, if there is a braking torque action, at that time what type of section you have to choose? When the brake is not provided on the front wheel, at that time which type of section will be more preferred? Okay, just see the front axle, either I have given this heading I section or circular section. Which section you should prefer at which conditions? First of all, the front axle is a simple beam of steel, and the section of the beam is changed depending on the stresses induced. As I already told you, if we mount or the brake is provided at front wheel, the stresses is going to change, and that time you have to consider the different section. Okay, now as I already told you, when the front wheel is not braked or not provided the brake, the axle beam is usually a simple forging of I section. The axle is made from a forging operations and it is having I section, which is with suitable seats for the attachment of springs and with the ends suitably shaped to carry the stub axles. Okay, this I section, as I already told, that this I section, suppose it is made up of I section, one end is used for stubble axle and also there is arrangement of providing a spring when we are using I section, and this I section is adopted because it is best to withstand the bending action to which the beam is subjected. Okay, because of the loadings, the beam is subjected to bending and it is good we have to go for I section. Okay, that's why when the front wheel is not provided, it is better to go for I section. If the front wheel is provided with brake, then what's happened? The horizontal bending action becomes considerable and a rectangular or circular section is more suitable than I section. Okay, because the axle beam between the stub axle and the spring seats subjected to twisting action or torque reaction, and that's why the braking torque, when we are applying braking torque to the brake drums, at that time the twisting or torque reaction is subjected between the stub axle and the spring seat, and that's why this portion or the whole axle should able to withstand that type of forces. That's why it is better you have to go for circular section or the rectangular section. Okay, so hence when there is a front wheels are provided with brakes, at that time circular section is more preferred. Okay, I think you have understood better. After that we are going to learn the some front wheel axle connections. Okay, according to the stub axle and axle beam, the can be classified in 4 types. First is Elliot stubble axle. Okay, Elliot stubble axle, here is the stub axle and this is the axle beam. Okay, the axle beam is made in such a way that their one end is like a yoke or a fork in between, the other end of the stub axle is mounted and which is pinned. Here a part is shown, there is a bearing, this is a pivot and this is a bending knuckle and this is the axle. Okay, this type of arrangement is called as Elliot stub axle. Once again I will repeat, I will show how, where is the, here is the stub axle and here is the beam axle. If you made a beam axle like a yoke or a fork and in between that stubble axle is mounted, then it is called as Elliot stub axle. If the arrangement is different, means the stub axle is having this type of shape or yoke shape and front axle is mounted, then it is called as reverse Elliot stub axle. Okay, and in second case, when the stub axle is having lower position than this front axle, and in this way it is called as Lemoine stub axle. And if the arrangement is different, the stub axle position is above the axle, wheel axle, then it is called as reverse Lemoine. Okay, and in this case the reverse Elliot stub axle is more preferred because it is easy to manufacture, the load exerted by the stub axle is equally distributed, and it is more adapted to use with front brakes and allows simple steering arrangement.